Many in the media assumed she was after financial gain. Her greed was criticized by the judges. Though she was married to a billionaire who was 89 years old and Nicole Smith was more than simply a Playboy model, she escaped poverty despite being from a small town. She died without receiving any compensation after a 15-year legal battle that reached the Supreme Court. At the age of 18, Anna's daughter Dannielynn is coming out as her biological mother. She is demonstrating the terrifying omens that reveal Anna is keeping tabs on them from beyond the grave. The birth of this girl took place in Houston, Texas on November 28, 1967. Anna Nicole Smith is her name. She was less than 2 years old when her parents divorced. She was brought up by Vie May Hogan in a tiny Texas town of only around 6,000 people. Because her father was absent for a large portion of her childhood, she had a difficult upbringing. She struggled in class and had trouble making friends. At Mexia High, her freshman year of high school, she struggled to keep up. Even though she transferred schools in 9th grade, she dropped out of school in 10th. Even as a young girl, she had loftier ambitions. She wished she could be famous like Marilyn Monroe, whom she admired. However, things were unfolding differently. In 1982, at the tender age of 14, she dropped out of school. She took a job as a server at Jim's Crispy Fried Chicken in Mexia to help support herself. At her job, she met Billy Wayne Smith, a fry cook, when he was 16 years old. She was 17 years old when she and he were married on April 4, 1985. After he rapidly became close to her, Dannielynn Wayne Smith was born to them on January 22, 1986, a full year later. It didn't work out the way she had planned for her wedding. Billy was envious and bossy, according to Anna's later account. No going on dates or hanging out with other people was something he wanted her to avoid. By mid-1986, she had had enough. She took their son Daniel and left Billy for a fresh start in Houston after they broke up. She worked for places like Red Lobster and Walmart just to get by. That wasn't enough, though, to sustain them. She struggled to make ends meet due to financial constraints. She began dancing at strip clubs because she felt she had nowhere else to go. It covered her expenses, but it wasn't helping her achieve her goals in life. After that, in 1992, she made a courageous move. She sent Playboy magazine nude photos of herself even though it was risky for her. That bet was the turning point. She was on Playboy's cover by March 1992 thanks to Hugh Hefner and his crew's high opinion of her. Her striking resemblance to Marilyn Monroe and her stunning good looks made her stand out. She became one of the most well-known models in Playboy history after being named Playmate of the Year in 1993, a year that hardly passed. Swiftly, her life took a turn. Working at fast food joints and nightclubs wasn't easy for her not long ago. Magazines began to regularly feature her and invite her to exclusive events. She had opportunities due to her fame, but she also had to endure constant media attention for the remainder of her life. That same November, she landed a major modeling gig with Guess Jeans co-founder Paul Marciano. She had that certain something that had made Playboy famous, and he saw it in her. Even though Marciano recommended changing it, people were still using her real name. As a result of their combined efforts, Anna Nicole became an instantly recognizable name around the globe. Nobody could ever forget her debut advertising campaign for Guess. She succeeded the stunning Claudia Schiffer as the face of the brand during a period when emaciated models were trendy. Anna Nicole's plus-size figure and glamorous Hollywood persona brought a fresh perspective to the industry. The black and white images used in the campaign, which were inspired by the renowned work of Jane Mansfield, quickly became the industry standard. This opened doors for her to collaborate with other notable brands such as H&M and Lane Bryant, further elevating her profile. When a model achieves success, it can lead to opportunities in Hollywood. During 1994, she was cast in 2 major motion pictures. Tanya Peters was her character in Leslie Nielsen's comedic film Naked Gun 33-1/3: The Final Insult. Although the film was well received, her performance was not. By the Golden Raspberry Awards, she had even advanced to the Worst New Star category. The Hudsucker Proxy, a film by the Coen brothers, featured her in a supporting role that same year. Although her role was minor, the film received positive reviews. In spite of everyone's criticism, Anna Nicole persisted. Being an actress and model wasn't all she could do. A household name was emerging for her. In 1993, she appeared on billboards across Norway and Sweden as a model for H&M. By collaborating with Lane Bryant, she challenged conventional beauty standards and proved that curvier models could land jobs with major fashion houses. She was selected to represent TrimSpa, a company that makes diet products, as her career progressed. She got into a lot of legal issues due to the support, but it kept her in the spotlight. No matter what others thought of her, she managed to maintain her prominence. It was in October 1991 at the Houston strip club Gigi's that wealthy man J. Howard Marshall II and Anna Nicole Smith first crossed paths. She was struggling to make ends meet at the age of 24. Since she was still in the process of learning dance, she worked during the day. She was far from being the blonde queen she would later become when she was younger. The 86-year-old Marshall was depressed. He was bereft of his wife and longtime lover early that year. He initially laid eyes on her during the night out he went on with his driver to lift his spirits. She was born in Texas and went by the name Vie May Hogan. She dropped out of high school and worked multiple jobs to support herself and her son Daniel. She was a waitress for Jim's Crispy Fried Chicken and Red Lobster. Life was never good enough for her, she thought. As she danced to The Lady in Red by Krista Berg that night at Gigi's, Marshall felt a strong attraction to her. A day later, he extended an invitation to lunch. Before she departed, he handed her $1,000, 0 cents, and warned her against returning to the club. He proceeded to shower her with costly presents after that. To disguise her, he bought her a red Mercedes and showered her with gold. His monthly payment to her was $4, 0 cents, for what he claimed to be consulting. He repeatedly proposed marriage, but she was hesitant to accept. When she did photos for Playboy in 1992, it was her big modeling break. The following year, she was recognized as the Playmate of the Year. Marshall was determined to marry her regardless of her soaring job status. On June 27, 1994, they tied the knot at Houston's White Dove Wedding Chapel. His age was 89 and hers was 26. 11 individuals were present. There was Marshall in his wheelchair, and there was Anna in her slinky V-neck dress. Let her son, who was 8 years old at the time, carry the rings. Her second marriage was solemnized. They were no longer together after she wed Billy Wayne Smith at the age of 17. Marshall had completed the trilogy. In 1991, after being married for 30 years, his second wife passed away from Alzheimer's disease. The wedding went by in a flash. Just before the night came to a close, Anna departed for a photo shoot. Even in his wheelchair, Marshall couldn't hold back his tears. People couldn't get that image out of their heads. That this wasn't love became evident to them. She was believed to have married him for financial gain by many. A large sum of money had already been gifted to her by Marshall prior to the wedding. He took her houses, horses, gold, and Rolls Royces, among other things. She was purportedly after financial gain, according to some. A federal judge later concluded that their relationship was motivated by lust, greed, and need, but Anna vehemently denied the accusation. Marshall gave her love and respect, she told Larry King in 2002, and those were more valuable than money. She continued by saying she had repeatedly declined his advances, preferring to test the waters solo for the time being. On the other hand, something seemed off. Supposedly, he promised to give her half of his fortune, but he failed to record their agreement. In his will, she was completely disregarded. She would soon find out that marrying him for financial security was a mistake. Just 14 months after they were married, on August 4, 1995, he passed away. He was 90 years old. One of the longest and most contentious court cases ever started after that. For a while, Smith believed she would inherit half of her late husband's fortune. J. Howard Marshall, a multi-billionaire, owns one share of Koch Industries. His will did not include her, even though he had $6 billion. Reportedly, he had assured her that she would receive a share of the company upon her marriage. However, his son, E., according to Pierce Marshall, it was untrue. He informed her that her rights were completely waived because the will was final. Aside from Smith, there were other combatants. J., one more young man. Because of his failed attempt to seize control of Koch Industries, Howard Marshall III was also disinherited. He claimed his dad had made a similar promise to him. Also, he received nothing, just like Smith. In 1996, Smith experienced financial difficulties. The former nanny of her son sued her for sexual harassment, and the court ordered her to pay $850,000, 0 cents. She lost the case. She filed for bankruptcy in California because she couldn't afford it. The possibility of receiving funds from Marshall's estate was considered an asset at the bankruptcy hearing. A massive victory followed. She received nearly $450 million, 0 cents, from a Los Angeles bankruptcy judge in the year 2000. During their marriage, Marshall's shares in Koch Industries increased in value by that amount. However, the victory was short-lived. She was informed by an estate judge in Texas the following year that she was not entitled to anything. He further instructed her to compensate E. Pierce Marshall racked up fees from legal firms exceeding $1 million, 0 cents. It was time for the case to go to federal court now that two lower courts had reached conflicting conclusions. In 2002, her award was reduced to $88 million, 0 cents by a federal judge. However, a higher court rejected that in 2004 on the grounds that federal judges lacked the authority to overturn decisions made by state family courts. U.S. involvement was necessary to bring the case to a close. Not to mention America, it was decided that the Supreme Court would intervene. In 2006, she was vindicated by the Supreme Court. The decision, penned by Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, did not award her any financial compensation, but did affirm her right to continue suing in federal court. It was an improvement, but she still had a long way to go. Starting with its premiere on August 4, 2002, The Anna Nicole Show quickly became a massive hit. Because Anna Nicole Smith's life was so unpredictable and daring, people were fascinated by it. She had a rough go of it lately after working as a Playboy model. E! Had the highest viewership. During the first season, viewers couldn't tear themselves away from the program. It was both funny and sad at times. In the show, Smith sought to plan for her life after stardom. She was experiencing financial difficulties as a result of her years-long excessive spending. After her husband Jay passed away, she found herself in court as well, residence of Howard Marshall. Attempts by Smith to correct her dog's misbehavior and the confrontation between her and her eccentric interior designer Bobby Trendy both seemed staged. However, inside the premeditated mayhem, there were actual moments of agony. As his mother's life became a public spectacle, her teenage son Daniel frequently appeared uncomfortable on camera. Reviews for the show were negative. Jon Stewart characterized it as evil, and many felt it exploited Smith's private issues. Due to her slurred speech and unusual behavior, bystanders suspected she was under the influence of alcohol while filming. It was later reported that the directors had given her an excessive amount of Red Bull in an effort to make her more agitated. Unfortunately, the show only served to exacerbate her issues. Amidst all the controversy, The Anna Nicole Show ran for a full 2 years until it ended in 2004. At that point, Smith had been the target of many people's laughter. The tabloids reported on her every move. She asked the audience if they liked her figure after tripping and stumbling on stage during the 2004 MTV Video Music Awards. Although it was intended to be humorous, it was evident that she was struggling. Even before the show began, Smith's drug issues were public knowledge. The prescription medications she was taking, including chloral hydrate and Valium, contributed to her demise. In 2007, an overdose occurred. Her mood swings and unusual behavior were obvious to everyone, but instead of seeking help, they made it even more public. At one point, even Daniel, her son, seemed ashamed, as if he were a contestant on a reality show that mocked his mother's suffering. Important news was announced by Nicole Smith on June 2006. In a video that she posted to her website, she announced her pregnancy to the world. It took a few months, but on September 7th, she became a mother in the Bahamas. You may call her Dannielynn. Stern claimed paternity of Dannielynn. Even his Bahamian birth certificate bore his name, but renowned photographer Larry Birkhead disproved it. He claimed paternity and took them to court. A further layer of confusion was introduced when two additional men arrived. Zsa Zsa Gabora's husband, Friedrich Prince von Anhalt, claimed to have been seeing Smith for a long time and to have suspected that he might be Dannielynn's father. Her former cook and bodyguard, Alexander Denk, also expressed suspicion that he could be the father. New details regarding Smith's pregnancy added to the mystery surrounding the paternity case. She was allegedly given methadone while 8 months pregnant under a false name, according to reports. Although an investigation was initiated by the California Medical Board, the prescribing physician maintained that the medication was appropriate and offered his support for the decision. To get to the bottom of things, a judge stepped in and ordered DNA testing. But just as the case was about to be closed, another tragedy struck. Smith was discovered motionless in a Florida hotel room on February 8, 2007. By the time she reached the hospital, it was already too late. Too many narcotics had taken her life. The judge denied Birkhead's immediate request for a blood sample, despite the fact that her attorney had urgently asked for one. The court has ordered the preservation of her remains until February 20th. At long last, in April 2007, we had our results. Larry Birkhead was declared the biological father of Dannielynn by a Bahamian court. He swiftly obtained a passport and changed her birth certificate so she could be brought to the U.S. Stern did not contest the decision, but he had one additional option. To get her granddaughter back, Smith's mom, Vie Arthur, attempted to appeal the decision. The judge denied her request and even made her pay the court costs. Birkhead brought Dannielynn home after the court proceedings concluded. Despite the conclusion of the paternity case, the harm had already been done. On September 7, 2006, 3 days after giving birth to her daughter, Nicole Smith's world came crashing down. On September 10, her son Daniel Wayne Smith passed away while he was visiting her at the hospital. He was 20 years old. He arrived to see his newborn half-sister, but he stayed. Substance abuse, including methadone, was the cause of his death, according to the autopsy.